The U.S. Senate has been debating post-9/11 laws which allow the president to order military action overseas anytime, anywhere to fight terrorists. But senators have grown concerned it allows the commander-in-chief to deploy troops without the knowledge of Congress. And top U.S. officials have asked for almost unlimited war authority should the old legislation be replaced.
2001 AUMF remains a cornerstone for ongoing U.S. military operations. However, should Congress decide to write new AUMF legislation, any new authorization should not be time constrained. A new AUMF must not be geographically restricted.
We cannot put a firm timeline on conflict against an adaptive enemy. We are more likely to end this fight sooner if we don't tell our adversary the day we intend to stop fighting.
Today in 2017, many members of Congress believe that the existing authorizations are outdated and support a new revised AUMF that addresses present-day threats. Now, this is a view that both the Obama and Trump administrations have argued against. But these voices were present at the hearing. Senator Cardin said that the authorization has been used to justify U.S. military operations overseas and that Washington is relying too much on military force.
The 9/11 and Iraq AUMF have now become mere authorities of convenience for presidents to conduct military activities anywhere in the world. The United States has relied for too long on military force as the first response to the problems of terrorism, insurgency, and instability abroad. To provide some context, the AUMF passed shortly after 9/11 to authorize military operations against those responsible for the 9/11 attacks. The 2002 AUMF, on the other hand, authorized military operations in Iraq. Now, according to a 2016 Congressional Research Office report, the Bush and Obama administrations used the AUMF 37 times in 14 different countries. Given that the U.S. Senate voted against repealing the AUMF only last month, it seems rather unlikely that the AUMF will change anytime soon. But it's also impossible to predict what exactly the results of the hearing will bring.
We heard differing views from political analysts on the controversial post-9/11 rules, which allow for limitless and unsanctioned counter-terror operations.
The AUMF was authorized after 9/11 specifically to target the terrorist groups behind 9/11, and it was essentially a recipe for forever war that would lead the U.S. to have ground troops in places that even members of Congress weren't aware of. And so it's forced the debate that's taking place right now over essentially reauthorizing the forever war without debating the wars themselves.
There's nothing in the Constitution that says there has to be a piece of paper that says declaration of war on top of it. As long as Congress is approving the money for military operations and the president is signing it, then it's legal.
You know, beyond the issue of whether it's constitutional under the War Powers Act, there's also the issue of whether it's democratic. A lot of the funds for these covert and semi-covert wars, or for example, the arming and training of Salafi and Salafi jihadi proxy groups in Syria, go through the House Appropriations Committee's black budget. There's never any debate about it, and the American public has been left completely in the dark.
And I think Mr. Blumenthal is absolutely correct that if he's making the case that some of these wars have been mistakes and ill-advised, I certainly think that if there was more involvement of Congress or more public debate, we would avoid some of these things. There's certainly a number of countries that Americans not only have no idea that we're there, and they certainly would say, hold on, why don't we get out of there?
We've seen drone strikes in Philippines. We're hearing that Trump wants to weaponize drones in areas around Niger, which is twice the size of Texas. Why is there no debate around that? That's because of the tradition of Congress authorizing, kind of in a bipartisan fashion, any intervention or proxy war or semi-covert war that the executive branch wants to deploy.